What if your parents, your family, and everyone around you told you that what you wanted to do with your life was never going to work? That it went against everything your culture expected of you? And what if you did it anyway? Vithyaa Thavapalan asked herself exactly that question. She took that step and became the first woman of colour in the world to start her own fire investigations company. And then she went further. She paved the way for other South Asian women in Australia to grow in their own fields and built a community so that they'd never have to do it alone. This is her story. Vithyaa, thank you so much for joining me. It's great to have you on.
Thank you for having me and the invitation as well.
Oh, not at all. I find what you do to be absolutely fascinating. So I thought I just would love to hear more about it. But before we get into your story, I would really love you to set the scene. What it was like growing up as a Tamil Australian early on when you were young. Like, what were the expectations for success in your life?
Oh God, that's going straight into the gender and cultural stereotypes being Sri Lankan Tamil here. So I was born in Western Sydney. I'm a twin as well. And so both my parents, because they effectively left Sri Lanka because of the Civil War, they don't claim themselves as refugees. But at the same time, I would consider them doing so. And in saying that, they wanted us to do the very best we could because we came and they left a country for a better beginning for having their own family. And what we have experienced, and it's not just myself and my sister, but my entire family, a lot of people I'm friends with, it's very stereotypical South Asian experience to go, you have to be a doctor, you have to be an engineer to be successful. And so when I pivoted and didn't do I would like to say pivoted. It was more like rebelled, in all honesty, especially growing up here, right? So I had a lot of Australian friends, and I went to a very Australian school, so there was hardly any people of colour, so they didn't understand the culture and gender stereotypes that plagued being South Asian or Sri Lankan. And so when I rebelled, it was like they couldn't really do much. Eventually, they just gave up on me and realized this girl is just going to do what she wants. At least we've got one daughter that's, listening to us somewhat. And it didn't help that I had, my first cousins becoming doctors and engineers or following down that allied health avenue. But I think I just rebelled, and I think it was the best thing I ever could do. I followed my intuition and my gut, even though I didn't really figure out what I was doing until I was 23, 24.
Yep.
A lot of uni debt to show proof of that. But yeah, so it was very interesting growing up. And then the other thing was being bullied for the color of our skin as well, because I went to a very Anglo-Saxon or, white Australia school. There was hardly any people of color. And so I was bullied for the color of my skin. This usual stuff that I've not heard in a really long time, which is great. It's like the words like curry muncher and that sort of stuff. Yep. Now if anyone says anything, I'm like, we just have great food and you know it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
But the best thing is I haven't heard those words used in a really long time, which is great to see. It shows that, multicultural Australia is actually thriving.
Hopefully
we'll see what happens.
Not get into the political events at the moment.
Oh, we will not go down that rabbit hole.
No, that's all right. So did your sister, your twin, go on to do something that your parents approved of?
Yes, so she's a pediatric psychologist.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And she now runs her own company and her own practice out in Melbourne. And she serves the future generation, I'd like to say. And so I think the work that she's doing is really, really important. So yes, my parents, they didn't quite understand what psychology was till she was like, doing several years. And when I say several years, it's like basically a medical degree. Yeah. But they didn't quite understand. But when she got out of it and, she's starting earning a living and they've realized the amount of money she was making, they were like, oh, yep, you're successful now.
So you went against your heritage, you went against the role of a typical female and the extra pressure of a twin. Like, what was the drive? Like, can you think back or even go back to that moment where you went, stop this is not what feels right. Like, I'm going to do what feels right for me. Like, what was it that was driving you?
Okay, in all honesty, I was competing with my sister to beat her in the HSC,
Yeah, that's
which,
it.
which I did. So that was my driver during high school.
Yeah.
And then we both got into we got into the same uni, but then I was like, look, I want to go out on my own as well. So I think I was still figuring it all out. And like, to be really honest, like really, really still figuring it out. Nothing really popped out to me. And so that's why I did a Bachelor of Science, because I was like, they're going to be happy I did a Bachelor of Science. That opened so many doors and opportunities. And that's when I was thinking about doing medicine. And I was like, watching my cousins and everyone not attend family functions and not seeing them and going, well, what is the point in doing all this work and studying this hard when you don't really have a life? And then I did a deep dive going, they work a lot of hours and the work that they do is amazing, but it's not for me. And my social life was way too important. Like, turning 18, that's the year we can start, formally legally drinking and going out and, having fun with our friends and so forth. And we were still told we weren't able to do that. Like, my parents are like, oh, you can't go out, you can't drink, you can't do this, you have to be home by 10 p.m. We would obviously defy that. But I think I think all those experiences, like, going out with my friends and seeing other people do what they wanted to do made me realize, like, I need to figure out what it is. And so when I finished my Bachelor of Science, I took a gap year.
Yeah.
And I realized working in a pharmacy, this is not for me. Because when you do GAMSAT, you can do various options. It opens 4 different doors effectively within allied health and medicine as well. So that's when it opened all these doors and I was like, this is really not for me. And then what happened was I looked at various degrees post-grad to enter in, and one of them was forensic science. And I was like, this is interesting. Let me see. Rang my mum when I got the actual approval to, attend UTS, which is University of Technology Sydney. And I'm also wearing the jumper today.
Hey.
Proud UTS alumni. And that's when I got into that program and everything kind of fell into place from there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a specific decision that kind of laid out that path. I did that degree and then I did a subject called fire and explosions, and that's what started me in the fire industry effectively. Sparked me, ignited my interest, whatever puns you want to use. So that's what started it. And I'm really grateful. I had really nice mentors and teachers along the way. And I'm really, really grateful because I don't know where I would be if I didn't do that degree.
How did your parents feel about this?
My mum, when I rang her, she said, when I got into UTS, my mum said, let's see what else comes in. And I guess from her perspective, no one knew what forensic science was at that point. It was just CSI, what you saw on the TV, and that was it. But I was like, let me just try this. I really, really want to try this. And so she was like, okay, but it was a discussion that we had.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm still going to do it. Whether you want me to or not, I'm still going to do it. I'm the one that has to pay my uni debt, and that was that was the conversation. And so even when I formally finished my degree and I graduated, my parents both came to my graduation, they still didn't know, even though I had an internship locked in before I even finished that degree, they still were worried. And I guess it was because of the financial aspect of being a fire investigator. They didn't know what it was. I didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
And for me, I enjoyed it that much that I was like, the money doesn't matter. And for Sri Lankan and South Asian parents or any ethnic parents, money is a huge factor in driving someone's success, because obviously that allows you to, buy a house and, go on holidays and have the fancy luxurious cars because that's what they all wanted. And that's a sign of, success and wealth.
Yeah.
But for me, success and wealth is enjoying what I do, because if we don't enjoy what we do, then what's the point in doing it?
I agree. And I think if you follow what feels good, the rest looks after itself anyway.
Oh, yeah. I'm starting to see that now, which is great.
Yeah, it takes a while. It can. So can you share with us what it was like walking into that room, forensic investigation, for the first time, because you were such a minority in so many ways. So what was that like?
When you say walking into the room, as in walking into university, or?
No, I mean, once you're out, you sent off your CV and then you got a role, you got a job, and you walked into an environment that was male dominated, fire investigation. Like, it was so unique and so kind of obscure almost. It's such a niche area. And you're a woman of color. Like, what was that like? How did that feel for you?
It was interesting.
Yeah.
But my employer didn't ask for my CV till much later on. I had the internship without the CV, which was great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And when I first entered basically a room full of fire investigators when I was still doing my training, I was like, where are firstly all the women? And where are all my people of color at?
Yeah.
And I was used to the lack of people of color, but I was not used to the lack of non-females around me. And so there was a point where I was actually doing a lot of code switching. Now, code switching is when you do certain things to fit into the environment. So, you lean more into your male attribute sort of thing, and you'd laugh at, remarks that wouldn't necessarily be appropriate, possibly be quite sexist as well, just to fit in. And that was the early days. And then eventually I realized, because one of my mentors was a male, the other was a female. And then my male mentor, he basically said, women are such better fire investigators because you guys can multitask. And I was like, yeah, that's true. And so then I started, we rarely wouldn't really get into the same room as a lot of fire investigators. Like, we don't meet that often. But I was grateful to have really good mentors and support around me. And so when I started to go to more and more events, my experience and, being a fire investigator and showing that I'm actually surviving in the industry spoke volumes to my male counterparts. In saying that, it is interesting when you go out on site and, men are like, oh, do you want me to hold something for you so you can climb up? And I'm like, no, because I'm used to working on site by myself. But it was nice as well, right? Like, chivalry is not dead, which is great.
And they're coming from a good place.
It came from a good place, but it's also like, would he ask his male counterpart the same thing? Hey, do you want me to hold something for you so you can climb it up? So that's always in the back of my mind. But now I'm so much better used to it. Or I just do a passing joke going, hey, would you ask the next man about this? Like, would you ask if someone else was with us, the same question? So I'm really good at questioning it now. But before, it was a little bit tricky. The other thing was, back in my early days, I was also a promotional model and promoting alcohol in bars and clubs. So I got used to all those remarks. So that kind of gave me a bit of a backing in how to handle those sort of environments and stand up for myself and back myself going, hey, this is not okay.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I did the same thing. I worked for United Distillers and I did a lot of the promotion stuff. But it's also very different. A lot of the things that kind of you let fly back then, it's like sexual harassment now. It's like,
I don't want to say sensitive is not the right word, but I think we have a lower tolerance, to excuse my French, to bullshit.
Yeah. Way more politically correct too now, and also go, hang on, that's not okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. And then was it at that point you started, like straight up, did you start specialising in the IEDs, which is fascinating to me? And it's the improvised explosive devices, isn't it?
Yes.
Is that what you got into straight up?
Yeah, so I don't specialize in it, but it actually got me interested. So as part of one of the labs at UTS doing the fire and explosion subject, we actually got to pull apart an IED, which is responsible for the Bali bombings. Wow. And I was like, this is cool. Like, I'm effectively looking at parts to build and possibly dismantle an IED. I'm like, this is so not okay. From a public person standpoint, like, that's really interesting to have access to that information. And that's when I jumped on the internet and sent 2 emails out. One to my mentor, and then one to another company who I think was likely kicking himself, going, why didn't I say yes to her?
Yep.
And so that's how I got my start. Okay. I can't say I've actually specialized in any fire investigation is so big. It's really hard from an outsider to see how big it is because there's so many things we do. I'm considered an all-rounder. So I'm looking at fire investigations wherever a fire occurs. So it could be vehicles, your structures, like residential to commercial to industrial to, the big mining equipment, mobile plant machinery, done a few solar farms, like you name it. It's a really interesting job. But now I'm specializing and doing a bit more further study in electrical engineering.
Okay.
because there is a gap between fire investigators and fire investigators who can comment on electrical causes,
Wow.
especially as an expert witness.
Yeah.
So some of the matters that we do receive eventually can go to court. And so to go to court and testify, you need to have the experience, but then also the skills and qualification to go, this is why I'm saying what I'm saying. And experience alone isn't going to do that much because it will get dismissed. So if you've got formal qualifications, it's always easier to back yourself going, look, I'm qualified. I've also got the experience and this is why I'm saying what I'm saying. And that way they can't rule you out as an expert, because typically what they've done to me the few times I have testified is they try and dismiss me as an expert purely because of my age, my experience as well. And so I normally have to show my CV and my qualifications and my university transcripts, have everything in front of me. And the most time they end up talking to me is about my training and qualifications and not actually about the case.
Yeah, right. Now, you've also been credited with looking at fire from a different perspective in terms of domestic violence and used as a weapon. Could you kind of explain that one a little bit to us as well?
Yeah, so domestic violence has been around for a really long time. It's only now not now, maybe in the last few years where it's actually being a current topic because of the escalation, especially across Australia, not just in multicultural communities. Now, when I say multicultural communities, because I'm also in the community space, domestic violence is massive across most ethnic populations because it's normal. In Australia, it's illegal, but in other countries, it's legal, like it's fine. And now the laws are actually, following and evolving to meet, it's 2026 and the evolution of how females are treated. So in saying that, I've been I don't want to say lucky, but I've been grateful to have had cases allocated to me that surround domestic and family violence, and that has been a cause. And being a female, especially in this space, when a male colleague of mine could have got the investigation but may not have been able to get as much information because the victim is female, it is quite troubling to hear. And that's why when I started to get more and more exposure to these cases, I developed a guide to help my male counterparts going, this is really important. Like, I see how they interview witnesses. I see how my colleagues interview witnesses. And, they're just there for one thing, origin and cause. But then they don't realize there might be someone and there might be some actual stuff happening in the background that we're not even privy to or aware of just by surface level looking at it. And so my first ever case that I did solo, like there was one that I did when I was training, and I remember being on my hands and knees smelling for accelerant in the basement, and there was an AVO out against the ex-partner.
Wow.
And I was like to my mentor at the time, I swear I smell something. Like this is like rubber disguises all smells. Like burning rubber is really good at disguising. But I was on my hands and knees smelling, and I was like, there's something here. And that's when we realized that we had forced entry. We also, the samples came back where I collect samples from when my nose was going, this is something off, there's something here. And those samples came back positive for ignitable liquids. And that helped that woman not only get her insurance paid out, because we could prove that there was, she had separated from her partner and all of that sort of stuff. But then also to prove the fact that someone had said it deliberately and she wasn't even living at the property at the time. She had moved herself and her family to a safer location because of the escalating level of violence coming in from her ex-partner.
And does that result in him being charged?
Yeah.
Oh,
and so that report itself was actually used by the police.
That's fantastic, because you kind of wonder, so many loopholes and circumstantial evidence, like whether that was enough, but that's brilliant.
Yeah. And there's multiple cases where I've done that. The police end up reaching out going, look, can you write a statement and also provide your report as well for us to use as evidence? Because the police, they do take samples, but they have a backlog. When you can imagine how many cases they're dealing with, they have a backlog. And for us, we get our sample results within like 2-3 days. And so our insurer clients are quite pleased with that, in the fact that we're able to give them those results. But then I tell them, I tell the insured typically going, look, you're entitled to a copy of the report. You just got to ask your insurer, and then you can use that to help you with your circumstances right now.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So not only have you revolutionized the fire investigation area, you are also a businesswoman who started businesses with no business experience. Like, you just have this incredible amount of tenacity and drive. But can you just walk me through, because I know you started the party planning company early on. What was that like? Because I know you were trying to do too. Walk me through a typical Tuesday when you were trying to run these,
Oh
do all
God.
this.
So I hid my events business from my employer at the time when I first started. And the reason I got into the events industry was because my engagement party did not happen the way, like I paid all this money and it just didn't hit my expectations. I was like, I'm supposed to have a big fat Sri Lankan Hindu wedding.
Yeah.
And obviously COVID hit and so we couldn't do that. But at the time we didn't know COVID was coming. And so we were planning for this big wedding and I was like, I need this wedding to hit the mark. And I need it to be like the party of our dreams, because our engagement party, everyone still talks about our engagement party, minus the decor, they still talk about it. And so we had expectations. And so I put those expectations on myself going, okay, I need to get in the events industry because I cannot have this happen for my wedding. That's what started it. It wasn't even me going, let me fix a problem. It's like, I have my own personal problem. This is what I'm going to do to fix it. Learn about the industry and serve myself through my own business effectively. And so then so Merce de Fleurs started with like 2 flower walls. And I was like, why is it called Merce de Fleurs if it's only got 2 flower walls? And so I diversified the business into 2. So we started Sydney Flower Walls and then kept Merce de Fleurs, which is now the events house. And then I did all these other things in the middle, but an average Tuesday would involve, clients calling me and I'd have to like sneakily take the phone, take a phone call or go, can I get back to you at like 4 or 5 o'clock? Because I might be on scene. And if I was on scene, I'd look at the phone going, oh my God, that's like potential client coming in. I have to do the best I can to answer them quickly before they go find someone else to do the same thing. And so I would hide everything.
Yeah, right.
But then I would normally go, look, can you drop us an email? Like there would be a message that goes out when I didn't have the time at all going, send me an email and we'll get back to you as soon as we can via email. And that made things so much easier. It's so much easier to hide.
Yeah. Wow, but it must have been exhausting. I mean, what was the moment where you went, okay, this is not sustainable. I'm going to have to change something here?
Well, the events business still runs.
Yeah.
Sydney Flower Walls I sold just before I was due to give birth to my first child. I know I've only got one child. So it was sold just before, because we realized Sydney Flower Walls had such an potential to be scaled further than what I was able to do, because obviously I was still working as a fire investigator. And at that point I was also general manager and second in charge of the company. So I was like, this is a lot. But we were really careful in the bookings that we always took, because people would still want me to be there.
Yeah.
And so when they wanted me to be there, I would go, look, our books are closed. We're not taking any new clients, because we built such a client base. Like the events house has been running for 8 years and we've had the same clients with us through that whole journey, which is amazing. And so those clients, we still serve them. I still go out to some of those events as well. So I'd love to say there was a point when I was like, I can't do it all, but I'm still doing it all.
It's full on. It makes me exhausted.
But in saying that, I'm really I'm being honest, I'm quite strict on the amount of bookings that we take now. Purely because I'm a mum now, events happen across the weekends, Fridays to Sundays. And so I'm really picky on what I take on. And I've got a good team supporting that business as well, which is amazing. But the priority is eventually to move out of the events industry. I just don't have the heart to do it, because it was the thing that got me onto my entrepreneurial journey. I have a soft spot for it, and I don't want to miss my clients. I've seen their kids grow up. I've also seen them celebrate 25 years, 30 years worth of 30 years in marriage. And so that's beautiful to be a part of those celebrations as well.
It's also a really creative outlet too, I imagine. So
yes. Fire investigation is dirty. And so the events is very pretty and very aesthetic. And I've, picked up a few floral trades here and there so I can put together a bouquet if I need to.
Quite the contradiction, really. It's not only just working in fire investigation, you've started your own business in that as well. So, and then I think it's the first woman of colour to ever own a fire investigation business. Is that right?
Yeah, from my understanding, I've had a few people reach out saying congratulations and stuff like that. I've had previous staff members going, oh my God, finally you're out on your own. Like this was, this was meant to be for you. But it was quite sad when I did start the business because I was supposed to buy into the previous company and then there was a falling out between me and my ex-employer. Still a bit frosty there, but it's all happened for a reason. And being now my own boss, and I still call myself funnily unemployed, technically, and to still say that and go, look, I'm now able to control all my time, and what I put my effort into is amazing. And then, produce work that is up to my standard for my clients, for my forensics business, but then also for my events business because of the time I have now. It's amazing. Like I've had a few clients that follow me across as well. And that was not intentional. When I left, I had a very strict non-compete, couldn't approach anyone, had to fight for my ability to work in as a fire investigator in Australia as well. So it was a whole Fair Work debacle, but then eventually clients were like, hey, where is she? And then they found me on LinkedIn and then they reached out going, hey, we want to give you some work because we loved what you did for us before.
Fantastic. And I think that's testament obviously to the attention you pay to detail and what a great job you do. So it was, makes sense by the sound of what you do.
Vithyaa Thavapalan, the first woman of colour in the world to own a fire investigation company. A woman who looked at every expectation placed on her and quietly, rebelliously, stubbornly chose differently. What I love the most in this first conversation is that she never set out to be a trailblazer. She just followed what felt right, even when almost nobody understood her why. And in doing so, she changed the room entirely. Make sure you come back for part 2 next week because that's where Vithyaa goes even deeper. The community she built from scratch because it didn't exist and she saw that there was a need, and the personal cost that nobody sees. The relationship in her life that broke, and the note on her phone she reads whenever she has doubt. Until then, what if? What if we can?